Welcome to Sound Bites, everybody. Kip Ione, founder, Teams of Men here. If you're watching this, you're about to dive into another episode of our weekly Sound Bites segments. The Sound Bites is either going to give you best clips and sounds from our latest Hivemind with like-minded coaches from across the country who are activating our lesson plans and our educations and trying to share and learn best practices for building your players as men in your program. If that's not a Hivemind week, you're listening to a Sound Bites. It's going to be me discussing ways to activate and weaponize current events from across the country that I think are usable and teachable moments with you and your team, whether it's through Zoom, whether it's in person, whether it's in a share. I'm going to be talking about in those types of Sound Bites ways to activate what they're seeing in their scrolls, what you're seeing on the news. Either way, welcome back to Sound Bites. Let's dive into it. My first thing I wanted to do, goals, something I've kind of learned in doing some of this work throughout the Zooms, and Adrian, I'm sure you've been on a ton of Zooms as well, is, having a plan in mind, and I've tried to impart that on our players, and I know Chris and my staff have done a great job making sure I do this with our meetings, but what do I want to leave here with? I appreciate you giving us your time, so I want to make sure we begin with the end in mind, so to speak. And so just kind of go around and talk about what is it in this Hivemind you'd really like to lead with. And it doesn't have to be this profound, hey, Kip, guess what we did? We solved all sexual violence on the Hivemind today. But for me, it's always good communicating with like-minded souls. It's cathartic for me. I think as you get through the Twitter feeds and the news around us, you can kind of feel on an island sometimes, like maybe I'm the crazy one. But I just think this is insane. So that it's always a benefit for me. And also, I'd like you to get a good intro, because I know we've been discussing and maybe get some initial ideas of intersections of where the Teams of Men work might help a coach leading a girls team. So that's for me, my lead with.
Kip, my wife's probably the one that really got me thinking about the women aspect of it. And just, I feel like with her, and just especially having my daughter 2 years ago, trying to provide a platform where women are equal. So
I'm curious, Adrian, I appreciate you sharing, kind of the genesis of your thought process. What are those conversations like with you and your wife, right? Mm-hmm. It's crazy, Adrian, the parallels for you and your wife, because Kelly and I know the genesis of even my thinking on this was a gender roles in society class at Willamette University that we took together. And I took it because she was my ride to campus. And that was the time that I was like, well, if she's going and I need an elective, like, oh, whatever. And we had more fights is probably the wrong word, but I know some of them evolved into fights, but it really opened us up to the thought, like me, that this is what is going on. Like this, what I believe in, kind of my thought process is what women face daily. Yeah. And it was Professor Bob McDermott. I still remember his name because half the time I'd leave there pissed off at him. But it really started our ability to talk about these things. Like I know that class generated, gender roles at home. If we get married or we have kids, like all these conversations came up. So I know there's power in that, right? And I think in doing this work, I've definitely been forced and lucky enough to become a better husband and a father.
Yeah, so the fans aspect I kind of already shared, but another one was like players opting out. Big names in NBA or NFL, that was the main thing, breaking news.
Right.
There's WNBA players that opted out and they got a 10-second snippet on ESPN. Like Maya Moore didn't go, or Donna didn't go either. Those are huge names for the game of WNBA. And even what Maya Moore's doing, she hasn't been playing for the last 2 years, and she got someone out of jail wrongly accused. And I feel like we're starting to live in a society, especially now, that's more divided. Everything has to be left or right or political of some sort. And I'm be honest, I could care less about politics. I'm all for, we got to find ways to unite us and share more positive solutions. Everyone's pointing out problems, but let's figure out a solution to this. And so,
no, the Maya Moore one, that's a great one, because she's been doing this work. And I know that the NBA guys, I'm not trying to say they're not doing some of this great work, but they haven't been committed to the cause in her way. And she's like 75-second scroll down the main page of ESPN to find it. And that's a great point.
And I think you guys, touched on this very well, but so much of what we're trying to do is just change, the lenses through which we see the world, because we are shaped by our experiences, our backgrounds. So the more people that we can touch, especially, on the women's side, there's an empowerment piece that I think is even more important than what we have on the men's side. But as we can continue to change the way that people see our current circumstances, that's how we create change.
Thought's probably the wrong word. I've tried to find the right balance, and I think it's been brought up even more than our previous work, which was focused so much on gender equity with the racial, with the social justice piece, like the white savior complex. Okay, obviously I'm Polynesian, so I don't have a white savior complex, but still, like, the coach comes in and I deliver this powerful speech, and suddenly my guys don't ever fuck up again, right? You know what I mean? So I was thinking, Chris, I really like what you said. I think we have, in the last, we've been doing this for 8-9 years. I think we've shifted that, even the nature of our meetings, from Kip speaks and you should copy what Kip said, which is never a good model anyway, to how do we generate voices and vulnerability in this space for you to find your own path. And it sounds like that's where you're trying to lean to. And I think it's probably the best version for you too, being a man, coaching women, trying to empower them to find their, because I don't think it's a dangerous balancing act, right? Thinking about when you were discussing the positive feedback from the parents, you might be able to source some of this from them too, since they already have an expectation, and it sounds like you have a good rapport with that group. And because, at your level, even more so than ours, they're not high school parents, but I think there's a flip side to that, because as you get into these conversations, however you do it, I think you're going to need some version of, I let mom and dad know this is the work we're doing. But I think you're more likely to get, oh, we're all in, because coach had us help him create the content, create the materials. Appreciate you listening to this episode of Sound Bites from Teams of Men. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're checking us out on social media at teams_men on Twitter. Follow me, Kip Ione, Ione, on LinkedIn. And if you like what you hear from a Hivemind segment of these sound bites, be sure to use the links included below in the comments and the descriptions of the video to join us for our next Hivemind.